Hello to my fellow Lewisboro residents. This is Eileen Nadelson. I'm a retired judge who moved up from Manhattan about 2.5 years ago, so I'm a fairly new resident up here, and I have been a happy camper ever since. Love this town and its people. And now that I've given you the accolades of the town and the people in it, we're going to talk about those pesky little problems we have on a daily routine with our next door neighbor, the good neighbors and maybe not such good neighbors that come up sometimes on a daily basis. Like the neighbor whose dog likes to poop on your lawn, likes your grass, thinks the grass is greener on your side, or the insomniac neighbor who gets up on Sunday morning and decides to mow his lawn about 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, those little things that get on your nerves with your neighbors. We're going to talk about how to handle those disputes with your neighbor and still make it work. And I'm going to give you the mantra that has proven to work. I'll get later into what I mean by the mantra, but we're going to talk about how you can actually make those little pesky problems go away with your neighbor, or maybe the merchant that delivered merchandise that was defective and refuses to give you a refund, or the service company that came to do something at the house and backed up and took your fence with them. These kind of things come up, as we know, and those are the things we're going to talk about today on how to handle those disputes. So let's first talk about the neighbor with the next door neighbor whose dog likes to come on your lawn. All right, and this has been going on for a while. And the first thing you do, listen up, the first thing you do is nothing. Do not do anything, because you're mad. You're going to go down there screaming, telling that neighbor what you think of him. When is this going to stop? Not the time to handle a dispute. Never handle a dispute when you're angry. So you may have to vent, which means you're going to call up your sister or your neighbor who lives a little bit further down the road, or you're going to talk to your adult child, or a friend that you could trust, and you're just going to vent. You're just sick and tired of this, and when is this going to stop? Get that out of your system if you have to, but do nothing with that neighbor and let it sit. And it might take a couple of days. It might take a couple of weeks. Don't worry, these problems are not going away. That neighbor's dog is still going to rattle you. So it doesn't matter when you do it. Of course, if you do it a year later, it might have an impact. But generally, you can wait a considerable amount of time until you are calmed down. You need to be calm. And then you can use the mantra. And this is the mantra. What I mean by a mantra is you say a particular statement. Usually it's one statement, maybe two statements, and you never vary from it. Your voice stays the same. You're calm. You never raise your octave up or down. No matter what your neighbor says, this is the mantra. I'm going to give you one that I made up for the dog poop, all right? So this is your next door neighbor. You go down to your next door neighbor. You're calm now. You have to be calm. Otherwise, don't do it. You go down to your next door neighbor and you say, Agnes, Fido did it again. He's doing it on my lawn, and I really don't like it on my lawn. You have to pick up after him. And your neighbor is going to give you whatever resistance he or she can. So I'm going to play your next door neighbor. I'm Agnes, okay? And my response is, listen, Mary Jane, I love my dog. He's like a person in the family. I don't want him restrained. I'm not tying him up. I let him go wherever he wants to go. And if he goes on your lawn, well, you know, that's just the way it is. This is the mantra. I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. But listen, Mary Jane, I just told you I'm not going to restrain him. I don't want him tied up. I'm just going to let him roam free. I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. Mary Jane, you got to understand, I'm a dog lover, you know, and this is where I come from. Why can't you just let him roam free like I want him to roam free? I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. Now, notice that you always acknowledge the neighbor by saying, I understand. You could say, I understand where you're coming from, Agnes. I understand what you mean. And then the second part is what you want. You need to pick up after the dog or Fido or whatever you want to call him. And it never, ever changes. And this could go on and I know your neighbor's going to think you're crazy. Don't change it. What's the matter with you, Mary Jane? Didn't you just hear what I said? You keep giving me the same thing. I'm not tying up that dog. I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. Simple, straight, no ups, no downs. Say that mantra. Now, the neighbor might even get mad enough to walk away from you. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm out of here. And walk away from you. I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. Now, she's out of sight, all right? You go home. You let it simmer, all right? You're going to go down again when you're calm again. And you're going to go down to your neighbor, and you're going to say, Agnes, we need to talk about, or he might have done it again, we need to talk about Fido. He's doing it on my lawn again, and it really is getting, it really is not something I like. Mary Jane, how many times am I going to tell you? Why don't you build a fence? Mary Jane, build a fence if you don't want him on your lawn. I understand what you mean, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. That's all you ever say. And even though your neighbor may think you're nuts, that's all you're ever going to say. And you know what? You have to trust me on this. It works. Everybody who's used it says it works. I use it when I am having a hassle with a company. I use the same mantra. I understand, but you have to do this. That's all you ever say. They will get it. Believe it or not, your next door neighbor, it'll take time, but they will get it. Sooner or later, she is going to recognize that there's no way to get past you. The neighbor's going to try to push you around to get past you. The mantra is to show the neighbor, without ever telling them what to do. Don't ever say, why don't you build a fence? Why don't you do that? Why don't you have them trained? Never offer any kind of advice. I understand, Agnes, but you have to pick up after the dog. That's all you ever say, okay? Try it, it works. Let's take the same thing with, well, let me go into something else. This will work with anything. You'll go with your neighbor who's making too much noise. Hello, Joe. You're getting up very early in the morning. On Sunday, we would like to sleep later. Then you start the conversation. And he says, well, I'm having trouble sleeping. I have trouble sleeping, Mary Jane. I got to get up. I have to do something. I understand, Joe, but you need to stop mowing the lawn at 7:30 in the morning. Same thing. Pick your mantra. Whatever it is, you do that mantra and you never, ever change it. I know it sounds peculiar. You have to try it in order to see if it's going to work. Trust me on that one. Now let's go to, let's say, the company, okay? The company that backed up and took your fence with it. They came to do some work on the property, and they backed up and damaged your fence. When you're calm, because otherwise you're going to get on the phone and you're going to start screaming at the clerk, how dare they? What are you going to do about this? When are you going to pay for that? Never, ever start any kind of conversation when you are angry. So you have to vent it out first or let it simmer. And then when you're calm, even if it's a week later, you get on the phone and you say, this is Mary Jane, whatever, and I would like to speak to the president of the company. Listen up. You're not going to talk to the clerk. You're not going to talk to anybody that works there. You're not even going to talk to the manager of the office. I want to talk to the president or the owner. I don't know if it's a small company. I want to talk to the president of the company. They will say, well, he's not available. I can give you a secretary. No, I'm sorry. Be polite. I'm sorry. I don't think a secretary can handle this. I want to talk to the president. He's the only one who can handle this problem. Stay with that. Don't talk to anybody but the president. They will eventually get you to the top man. Whenever I've done this myself, with companies like Verizon or AT&T, large companies where I'm really tipped off at something they did about the equipment I use. I get up on the phone and I say, I want to talk, I would like the name of your CEO. It startles them, it shakes them up. They will try to derail you. Well, the CEO is not available. Can I give you to his managerial officer? No, thank you. No disrespect, but this is something that only the CEO can handle. I need to talk to the CEO. Who's your CEO? You will eventually get what you need. Now, sometimes it's not the president, Now he, after all, you know, he might be in Florida, he's retired, and he's not even running the shop anymore. So you might get the next man or woman on the line, like the vice president or somebody's in charge of operations. You may get that. Doesn't matter. It's got to be somebody in authority, somebody at the top who can make a decision like that. You know, not the secretary, oh, Mr. So-and-so will call you back. No, no, you're not doing that. I want the top brass. I want to talk to him now, or he's going to call you back. And if somebody calls you back and is not the top brass, no disrespect, Mr. X, but I need to talk to the president as I requested. He's the only one who can handle this. You do not discuss anything with an employee of the company, okay? I've done it, it works. First of all, the top man doesn't even know what's happening with his employees sometimes. You think the president of AT&T knows what they're doing in the shops at the stores? He doesn't know that. So you're going to advise that they do not want to lose you as a customer. You're priceless to them. They do it on the spot. Companies are so much easier to deal with than our next door neighbor, because people dig in their heels and they get nasty with each other. But companies, once you get to the top level, they're going to clear it up in a flash. That man or woman at the top is going to say, oh, I'm so sorry, Mary Jane. I will take care of it right away. You know, are there any expenses? We'll give you a month off on your bill. Trust me, I've done it and I know it works. But you have to get to the top levels. It never works with any employee in the company, okay? It's very much easier to deal with a company. This works for the local store. If it's a local store, you want to talk to the owner. Well, the owner's on vacation, you know? Okay, fine, then you want the person who's in authority to run the shop while he's in Florida, if he's retired. Who's the person in charge of the shop? That's okay. Not the manager. If he's just managing the store, you do not want the manager, unless he happens to be the person in charge of the shop. It might be. You don't want to talk to a clerk. Never talk to a clerk. You don't want to talk to a cashier. Don't talk to any employee, all right? You need to go to the person in charge. That's the only person who can deal with what you want. So now let's go to the local store where you bought something and it doesn't work or it's defective, whatever, and they don't want to give you a refund. You are not going to talk to anybody in the store, not the cashier, not even the manager. You want to talk to the store owner. Well, the store owner is living in Florida now. So, okay, you got to talk to the person who's in charge of that particular store, the one with authority to run the store. That's the person. Who is that? Nobody else. When you talk to that person, they handle it again like that. They want you as a customer. They're going to try to keep you satisfied as much as they can. So stores, companies, they're the easy ones to work with, except you have to know to whom you are speaking. That's the part you have to know. Mantra usually is not required with them. But if it is, if they give you a hard time at the beginning, like, I'm sorry, madam, we don't do refunds, or our policy is we don't give back the merchandise, you can't return the merchandise. At that point you say, I understand, Mr. Smith, but I can't use the product. I need to have a refund. But madam, we do not do this. Our policy is we do not return, do not allow any returns. I understand, Mr. Smith, but I need a refund. The mantra never changes. They get the point. And he will satisfy you much faster on a mantra than your next door neighbor, as I said, because they want to keep you as a customer. They don't want their reputation smeared around the town. So this is how you handle the disputes. If you're calm and you use the mantra, generally you're going to find that it works. But what if it doesn't? What if you tried it? What if you lost your cool? What if they are digging in their heels? What if they're nasty, mean-spirited people and they refuse to come around? What's next? Well, you're going to have to go to court. That's where court comes into play. I'm going to teach you or explain to you what happens if you have to go to court. And you can do this very simply. Lewisboro has small claims division, and that's pretty much what you're going to be using. It goes up to $3,000. So unless your fence was worth $1 million, you're going to have to go to the main court in White Plains, but otherwise you're going to be dealing with the local court, which is both of you are going to end up there. It's very simple. You just go to court. It's a form. The clerk will help you here at the court. You fill out this form with your name and the name of the person that you're going to have a claim against, how much you need to have an amount, even though we do not fix the fence, okay? Or we do not have the dog sent to a kennel. So you need to come to court only for damages, what we call damages. So you're going to have an amount. Now, where do you get these damages? If you don't have any damages, chances are you're not going to have a case. But you may have damages, or you're going to have damages that will accrue. This is where you have to become sort of like a little bit of an investigator and a lawyer. You now need to be on your toes. In order to go to court, you need to have evidence of what you say. We do not, at court, I'm a retired judge, so you're listening to a judge, we do not pay attention to what you say. It's your word against someone else's. You need to show me that your word is the thing that is substantial. So that means you're going to have to take pictures. Let's say the dog poop. You're going to have to watch for that dog to come on your property and take pictures of that dog on your property. If the neighbor may say, well, it could be somebody else's dog, it's not my dog, it's Joe's dog down the block, then you're going to have to take a picture of Joe's house, how far away that is, compared to your house, go out on the driveway, take a snapshot of your house and your neighbor's house and how close they are, all right? And the lawns are together, whereas Joe's house is going to be down the road. That's a distance away. That's evidence. You may have to watch the dog actually do his stuff. Keep your eyes open. This is extra work for you, but when you go to court, now it is not the same thing as being calm and easy. You're out for battle. You're out to win. So you need to have the evidence behind you. And in the court of law, we rule on the rule of law, which in layman's terms mean you got to prove what you say. We do not do anything without the rule of law, even though you might be right. Well, what kind of justice is that? You know, the dog poops on my lawn, I can't get satisfaction. Yep, you're right. You can't get satisfaction. There's no justice unless it's on the rule of law. So you have to do your homework. Now, if you have to hire a kid to come and take away the poop, you know, at $10 a scoop, or you have to get a landscaper to do as part of his job, that's going to be extra money. Those bills, those checks that you write out, make a memo to pick up after, you know, the dog poop. It has to be, you're going to bring this to court. If you don't have this is very important for most people to understand, because I have seen it happen as a judge, where people come to court and they really are ticked off and angry at what's happening to them by someone else, and they can't get any justice. If you don't have proof, you can't win. If you don't have proof, you cannot win. So come with proof. That means the evidence of the payments. You're going to put down a payment, let's say it's $100 or $200, maybe it's $1,000. Whatever it is, you're going to put the payment down. That comes later, you know, when the judge makes a decision. But this is the way you come prepared. So court is relatively simple if you come prepared. If you don't come prepared, you lose. That's all there is to that. And so let's recap. Handling disputes is you staying calm. You don't raise your voice. You don't get angry. You keep the mantra. Going to court is evidence, documentation, proof of what is happening to you in order to get satisfaction from the court. And that is what the subject matter for today is. I hope you learned something from it. And if you need to talk to me about something else, something maybe a little different, or you want to discuss something with me, feel free to do so. I'm going to give you my email. And I use my email is judgenadelson@gmail.com. That will come directly to me, so you can reach me directly that way. Or you can call me on the cell phone. This is directly to me also, 917-327-6487. And so if you have something to discuss with me, feel free to do so. I hope this was informative and helpful to you. And until next time, this is Judge Nadelson saying thank you for watching.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.